once a year since the Lakers won the bubble championship, somebody brings up something to take away from the Lakers championship. And listen, if you want my view on it, I don't have an issue with anybody saying it wasn't like other championships. I don't think they're wrong when they say that. But there's a couple angles that I have here. So Joe Varden, who works for The Athletic, was doing an interview with Daryl Morey. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to read the quote here, and I'm sure you've already read it as well, but I think it's a good conversation. Here's what he said. He said, had the Rockets won the title, I absolutely would have celebrated it as legitimate, knowing the immense effort and resilience required. Yet everyone I speak to around the league privately agrees that it doesn't truly hold up as a genuine championship. Perhaps the lasting legacy of the NBA bubble is that the NBA should be proud of its leadership at both the beginning and the end of the pandemic, even though the championship will forever be marked as an asterisk. I read that quote. I just want to get your thoughts, your opinion on what kind of comes to mind when you see a quote like that from Daryl Morey.
Now, he did say something to the effect at the beginning of, the Rockets won it, he would celebrate it as a legitimate title and everything. The whole quote actually lands as though Daryl Morey is saying he doesn't necessarily agree, but people he's spoken to around the league consider it an asterisk championship. So I think there was a little bit of that kind of got put on Morey, that it was him making that point. And I think he was more saying that he doesn't feel that way, but people around the NBA do. But regardless, should it be seen that way? I mean, obviously I'm going to be biased in this and all of that, but no. And I ranted about this a little bit yesterday for Lakers Nation, but this is something we've been talking about for years. Obviously, it's something,
and we probably will still. 5 years from now, it's still going to be a conversation.
It will forever be a thing. But you're on a slippery slope if you start to put asterisks on championships, because if you're going to do that, okay, then let's talk about the 99 Spurs. Okay, let's talk about anytime anybody won a championship when a bunch of teams were injured. Let's talk about the Celtics getting a bye to the finals year before last, right? Where every team in front of them just collapsed under the weight of enormous injuries, right? That's where, if you're going to start throwing an asterisk on one championship, then you got to start looking at all these other ones and then throwing out all these asterisks and everything. No, a championship is a championship is a championship. I do think that who won it has something to do with it. I think that who won it has something to do with fans of other teams, that because the Lakers, like LeBron, are polarizing. Both the Lakers and LeBron are polarizing. You've got enough people who really dislike the Lakers that are going to throw out, oh, no, I don't like who won, so it doesn't count. So it's a Mickey Mouse ring, it's bubble chip, it's all these kinds of things. Ultimately, should a championship have an asterisk? No. And in fact, I think you could argue the other way, that this was the most difficult championship. You could also argue that it's the purest championship. If anything, people say the Lakers got an easy championship. No. If anything, they got a more difficult championship than ever before, because they were damaged more than any other team by going into the bubble, because they had home court all the way throughout the playoffs, and that was taken away from them. So they lost their home court advantage. They go into a place where everybody is competing on the same court, and there's that travel and everything else isn't involved, and they still won. And you know what? They were the best team in the regular season. So we should look at it and go, oh, no, asterisk, this team won. It's not like they were the 8th seed and they suddenly got way better. They were the best team in the regular season. They were the best team in the playoffs. They won the NBA championship. And people look at it and say, well, LeBron and AD that were only healthy because they got to sit out for 4 months or whatever. LeBron and AD were healthy when everything shut down. Giannis was not for Milwaukee. It was Milwaukee, the Clippers, and the Lakers that year. Those were the 3 teams. Giannis was not healthy when everything shut down, and he got a chance to heal up. LeBron and AD were healthy when everything shut down. The Lakers were rolling, and then everything shut down. The Lakers were damaged more than anybody else going in to Orlando, going into the bubble, and they still won. So I'm not putting an asterisk by that championship or any other championship. I think it's ridiculous.
So it's funny. I have a curiosity when I hear, especially if I hear from a player or an executive that says something about the championship in 2020 or just the run, obviously the circumstances, and you stop the season and it's 4 months and then you come back and you start it. I want to know what their argument is, because they're just going to have a perspective that I'm not going to have. I wasn't in Orlando. I wasn't in the bubble. I didn't talk to other players or executives. So I don't actually, if Daryl Morey says, and like you mentioned, Daryl Morey's basically, you can maybe call it representing other people in the league of what they think of that championship, not necessarily his opinion. I want to know why people think that. So I kind of have some curiosity when I hear it. But this is the thing. This is why I think it really doesn't hold as much weight. And I'll just kind of give you my opinion on it. If you look at when the league stopped, who were the top teams in the NBA? The Bucks had the best record in the Eastern Conference. They were 53-12. The Lakers had the best record in the Western Conference. They were 49-14. My point is that the Lakers weren't trash, okay? The Bucks end up losing to Miami in, I think, the Eastern Conference semifinals. They lose 4-1. Miami, a couple years later, also got to the NBA Finals with basically the same team with Bam Adebayo, Eric Spoelstra, Jimmy Butler, kind of a similar construct of a team. The point I'm making is Miami, even after the bubble, proved they can get through a really, really tough Eastern Conference, or they can be an underdog and get through an Eastern Conference to go make an NBA Finals. The Lakers had the best record in the Western Conference. They didn't come out of nowhere. If you told me the Atlanta Hawks got to the NBA Finals and won an NBA championship in the bubble, I would tell you, something weird happened here. Sure. The Lakers were 49-14. Do you remember? I think this is the one thing that bothers me most about the conversation of if the Lakers deserved, that bubble championship. How stacked was that roster, Trev? I haven't. I don't think people realize how stacked the Lakers roster were. KCP, Alex Caruso, Anthony Davis, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, Kyle Kuzma, JaVale McGee, Markieff Morris, Rajon Rondo, J.R. Smith, Avery Bradley. That team was stacked. I don't care if that's in a bubble or if that's in another arena or there was nothing else that happened. The actual squad that the Lakers had, that's as good of a team as you can possibly put together. So the issue that I have is if we try to really kind of break it down and pretend that nothing happened, COVID didn't happen, Lakers would be right there. It's not this oh my gosh, where did this team come from? They had the best record in the Western Conference, and they had this unbelievable roster full of Hall of Famers. That's my biggest problem with it, is I think they just don't get enough credit for how good that team actually was.
Well, and that team going into the season was not looked at as a stacked team. They weren't. And by looking through today's lens, yes, we know they won a championship, but even just looking at the way we view basketball today compared to the way we viewed basketball 5 years ago, it's shifted significantly. Today, we would look at, if somebody put together that same roster today, we would go, damn, that team is stacked, right? Back then, it was, okay, well, but the Lakers missed out on Kawhi. But they might be all right. Maybe they're going to be okay, but they missed out on Kawhi. So I don't know what their ceiling's going to be. All throughout that season, it was how good are they really up? They lost some games to some of the best teams. Maybe they're not really that good. Maybe they're just fattening up their record on some of the easier teams. Those questions were out there. But what was really happening, which we didn't know in the moment, what was really happening was the Lakers had discovered the next evolution of the NBA in terms of roster building, in terms of having switchy, physical, defensive players around your stars, guys who can play both sides of the ball, guys who could shoot the three and defend at a high level. The Lakers stacked their team with those types of players. Now everybody is trying to do that. The Lakers really paved the way for that. And unfortunately, they didn't stick with that strategy, obviously making some changes that next summer. Then making the big changes.
AD was playing.
Yeah, exactly. This team paved the way for the modern NBA in terms of how teams have been trying to build out their rosters over the last 5 years or so. So in the moment, we didn't look at that roster and go, oh my gosh, this team is so stacked. But looking back now, we're like, whoa, how do you deal with the amount of defensive pressure that team can put out there? And that's how they won and why they won. So this was, in hindsight, absolutely a stacked roster. We just didn't see it when it was first assembled.
Thank you very much for watching the clip. Just want to give a shout out here to one of our partners, the Wallace Firm. They are official injury attorney of the Sliwa Show and Hoops Talk, the entire channel. If you are ever in a need, and I hope you're not, but some type of serious injury with yourself or a family member of yours, I would like to personally help you by introducing you to the best in the business, Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Also got a URL out here that you can use as well. Just go to wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Thank you for their partnership, and thank you for being a part of the Sliwa Show.